walks on water? Who is this to split the sea? The one they call the Holy Father, the one who sent his son for me. They say he heals the broken hearted, they say he loves us all the same. He came to take us out of the darkness. Can someone please tell me his name? He's the great I am. He's the great I am. He's the great I am.
Welcome on back to Truth Prevails. So I'm gonna ask Ryan some questions about his marriage. So Ryan, so tell us a little bit about your marriage and how coming to Christ affected your marriage and just
But there was a point in time where my wife came to live with me in my mom's house, so girlfriend at the time, and it went against her religion, and I wasn't following anything at the time, and it's no sex outside of marriage. You shouldn't live together. So she was kind of pressuring us to get married. So at that time, I had been with my girlfriend at the time for 9 years. I'm like, I want to do it anyway. Let's just do it. But we had this conversation in front of my girlfriend at the time, so it's like she didn't have a ring yet, so it's like it kind of ruined it in a sense because like she knew a ring was coming, and like it just robbed her of that whole surprise. So after that happened, it was about like 2 months before the wedding, and this is when I was traveling back and forth to Cincinnati, and it was a random day, and she had been going to church for about like 2 or 3 months, and I wasn't going, but I was realizing I was coming to her. I seen a man on the streets, and I texted her. I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy that I'm getting married. You're gonna be my wife." And her text back was, "Yeah, I've been thinking about it, and I think I'm gonna call it off."
Wow.
So that was tough to get to do a text message, and I'm like, I'm reading this. I'm like, I can't even work anymore. My mind's like in a different place because I'm like, how can I text you that I'm so happy, and you're like, it's done. So I had told my mom, and I was flying back that night. So it was a tough ride back, and then my mom. When you get worldly advice, when things like that happen to you, and you're not following God, it's kind of like that's like the biggest low blow where it's like that person doesn't want you. I started feeling like that, like I'll never be good enough. That you would do this so soon that I'll never be good enough, and it just made me look at myself like and people in my family like she's probably got somebody else. It's this. Wow. She's not doing this for just randomly. There's something else behind this. She must have someone else, and her main reason for doing it was because I wasn't a believer, and this is the conflict that it brings. And how the Bible tells us, don't be unequally yoked. And if you come to Christ, she didn't leave me because she wanted to be that good example. And if you feel that good example, usually your partner will come around, and they will see God, and you pray for them, and you pray that, and usually, hopefully, they come to Christ also. But she had to put her foot down and say, "Hey, I'm not going to get into this," and it was hard. So we came home. I came home, and we talked about it a little bit more, and I was just like, "You got to go. You got to go." I kicked her out, and. Okay. But at the same time, I knew in my heart that she was right for what she was doing. Yeah. But like pride, and I was just like, you have to go. We had to separate for a little bit. I don't know if because she's like, I'm not going to leave you, but I'm not going to do this. And I'm like, give me time. Like, there's 2 months. I'll change in those 2 months. And it's just like, I can't take the risk. She's like, no, I'm calling her off. And I'm just like, what's everyone going to think? People don't bought plane tickets to come from Puerto Rico, and I'm just like, this embarrassment is just like, it was just like, wow. So just going through that, and one time on my lunch break, it was like the day after, I went to my house on my lunch break, and we was talking about it again, we were arguing about it again, and like I feel like I had a moment where I couldn't hear anything, and she was talking, but it was just like I was just like, this is the moment where I need to give my life to God. You know, if I really want to keep my relationship, if I really love her the way I say I love her, why wouldn't I do this? But she's like talking, and I'm just like not hearing anything, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay. But it's hard when you destroy your trust with someone. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to change, I'm going to do this. When you've been telling them you're going to change, you're going to change, you're going to change, where you destroy that trust. It doesn't know, they don't believe you anymore. But, you know, deep in your side of yourself, you're like, I'm going to give it 100%. I'm not going to fail this time. But it was just like, they done heard it so much. So I kind of had to bank on myself, like, you know what, let me prove it to myself, because I had lied to myself so much where I didn't even believe myself. And that's the thing, that was what got really bad, where it's like, I couldn't even keep my word to myself. And it's just like, wow, how low I came. But I was like, after that point, I'm going to do it. I know I need to give my life to you, God. I'm going to do it. And that was the point. That day, I was just like, yep, I'm going to do it. And after that, she didn't want to put a date on the marriage. Like, once I started coming to church, and I did it, and I was like, you know, let's do it next year around the same time. And it was like, she's like, no, because I don't know where you're going to be at that time. I don't want to put it and then we go through the same thing we went through. But it's like, that's why it hurt more, because I was like, I know I'm about to give 110% because I want that, and I want to change. You know, I need to change. So that was hard. But once I built that trust up again, we was actually able to get married on that time, at that date. But that was a hard year. Plus, like, we had to abstain for doing anything, and I moved her out. We got an apartment, and you know, we tried to do it God's way. We was gonna buy a house. Literally had everything signed, appraisal, everything. Only thing we had to do was get insurance. But we was having a hard time getting insurance, and it was actually a sign not to do it, because that's before we was married. So it was like, you don't want to become and get into this debt, and what if we broke up? You know. Sure. And I got this house in both our names, and we're not even married. We're trying to become one before we're one. So it was like, that was like a blessing, you know, in disguise. So we was going to have a destination marriage. It's supposed to be in Mexico. So like 30 people was flying out, a lot of family. And so we still had that trip. So about 15 people flew out. Some people canceled because like, you're not getting married, we don't want to go. But it was like, still a vacation. But that vacation was so tense. Because a lot of people was mad at her, because they're like, why would you call it off? Like, you didn't really care about anyone else's feelings. You didn't care about anyone else's time or anything. Like, why would you do that? And they felt like they was hurting me or there's someone else. But at the same time, I was growing. So we had a huge fight at dinner where everyone was like attacking her and mad at my mom. Everyone was mad at her, but they didn't see it from God's point of view, and how we were entering something before we was even ready for it. You know, I got into a fight with my brother, and you know, even my friends, they felt like you're letting her control you. You're not thinking for yourself. She's controlling your things, and like, you shouldn't be like that. And I'm like, I chose this. This was the best thing. Like, and you know, even my relationship with some of my friends after that trip, it hasn't been the same. You know, they didn't understand why I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to get drunk. You know, you're on a resort where it's all inclusive, everything, you can get drunk, and I was just like, I had no interest in getting drunk. I didn't want to go out at night and get drunk, and that was tough. You know, to go through that where they feel like you're too good for them now, and it hurt. You know, it hurt because you know I needed help. And the same help I need, you need, and for them to see it, to see why they need the gospel too, it was hard, but now, that's when now I look back, and sometimes I talk to my mom about this, and you know, and say, that was a blessing that she did that, because if she didn't do that, I don't know where I would be, because before I got married, I was still hanging with other girls, and it's crazy because, you know, people held me to a standard that I should have never been held to. So people looked up to me, and it was like, I had a girl tell me, you know, if your relationship fails, I'll probably never believe in relationships because I had been with her for 10 years. But I'm like, how can you say that when you're trying to do things with me? It's like, why are you holding up to me and I'm a fraud? I'm not being loyal in my relationship, but you idolize my relationship. Like, it just didn't make sense. But when I'm in that situation, I'm not gonna say that because I want to gain everything I can gain, and, you know, and it was hard, you know. I used to hang with girls, and they used to be like, "Oh, why you here? Like, where's your girlfriend at?" And it's like, man, your conscience hits you. You can never run from your conscience, you know. So it was just a blessing. And when I talk to my mom now, I'm like, I'm glad she did that because now I'm here, and that really showed me that I really needed God, and you know. So even my brothers and even we talk, it was a blessing. Cause I probably would still be lost, you know. Probably could have been dead from the sin.
So, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so you mentioned that your now wife was kind of like she wanted to see where you would be at a year from you know the discussion and you know her decision. What convinced her that your faith was genuine? And that it wasn't just I'm getting saved, I'm knowing Jesus because I want to be with you, kind of.
Oh yeah. She said I sent her a letter. I wrote a handwritten letter and I mailed it to her. And she said when she read it, she was like, okay, he's ready. And she saw the change. She actually saw the change in me, and that's when she knew, you know, because you have to see the change, and it can't be a quick change. But I guess she said when she saw the letter I wrote her, that's just okay. I can put a date on it now, and she felt comfortable doing that. You know, that's what people want to know. When's it gonna be then?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I gotta call it off, and I still can't tell you when it's gonna be. That was tough.
Okay. And one last thing, I guess how did your mom react eventually when you got to know Jesus and were getting married and essentially now living this new life with your wife as a non-witness but as a believer?
Oh, wow. It's a crazy question because she was happy, but she was happy I wasn't becoming a witness. So it was like, you want me to come to God, but you're just mad I didn't join your religion. And there was a point where she wasn't going to attend my wedding. So it was like, that was going through stress, but I was like, you're not going to attend my wedding for a false religion? And, you know, that was tough because it was like, your religion's false, and now you're following, and you're not going to attend your own son's wedding. I made all these changes. I'm actually following God now, and you don't want to come? Like, that was tough. But, you know, that's when after I got saved, I was talking to her a little bit. That's when I was learning more about her religion, and I was hitting her with, like, this truth, and like punches the truth. This hard punches the truth, and then like after a while, she ended up realizing, and then she decided that she was gonna come, but like she couldn't tell anyone in the church, and she didn't want to come because I was having it in the church. So it was like she was convincing me to have it at my grandfather's house and in his backyard, but she didn't want to do it if I went. She didn't want to go if I had it in the church. So it was that was tough too.
All right. There's a lot there, but thanks, Ryan. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching.
Who is this that walks on water? Who is this that split the sea? The one they call the Holy Father, the one who sent his son for me. They say he heals the broken hearted. They say he loves us all the same. He came to take us out of the darkness. Can someone please tell me his name? He's the great I am. He's the great I am.